This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so let me just get started here. Okay, great. All right, so again, good morning, guys. Uh, Before I get started with the demo, a very quick introduction about myself. I am Kiran, and I totally have around 9 years of experience in the IT industry. It's now 9 plus right now. I initially started off with a little bit of development. So I was a developer. I was a .NET developer. So I started as developer. I was a developer for about a year and a half, and then I moved into Azure administration. So I was an Azure administrator, Azure Linux administration and everything for about 1.5 years. Then that sums up around 3 years, and after that, I made a switch into DevOps. Like since I was an administrator, I had a good edge into going into DevOps as such. So I am into Azure DevOps since the last six and a half years. So I've been with this product since the last six and a half years. I've seen this product evolving, and I'm also a certified Microsoft trainer, and I hold good amount of certifications. Like I'm a certified Azure administrator, certified Azure DevOps engineer, a certified network engineer, and a lot. And I'm also a certified solution architect. I've also been a solution architect for a couple of projects out there. So, and this, I believe, is, I'm not really sure, I'm not really keeping account, but we've been doing a very good amount of batches out here. And everyone who's contacted us, we never shared any syllabus copy or something like that. We wouldn't have shared any syllabus copy. Reason being, this course is really dynamic. Today the course is really evolving. Around 5 or 6 batches ago, if you would have joined, we wouldn't have covered something called Terraform and all these things. But right now, the market is evolving, and even the course is evolving. Course is really expanding out here. So we keep adding on content, and not only that, also while the class is going on, we keep adding on, let's say, real-time examples, and we get in a lot of things out here. So that's the reason we do not have a static portion as such. But let's go into the overline. Let's go on to the outline of what the course is. Let's get a very good understanding of what that is. So let's get started here. Again, I just added a slide to tell about myself, but it's already done. But before I get started with DevOps, I'm not even going to DevOps firstly. I'm just going ahead and I'm just starting with Azure as a cloud. But before I even start with Azure, what is cloud computing? Like, did you hear this term called cloud anywhere? If you did, what do you understand by this terminology called cloud computing? Anyone? Any basic idea would suffice. Yes, please go ahead. Google Drive is a cloud. Good example. Okay. Saving? Saving files. Okay. Fine. Anyone else? Controlling and operating. Okay. Anyone? Anything else? And guys, who's sitting in the
Storage.
last? Can you all see my screen? Is it good? Okay, great. Storage. Okay. So something around storage and all these things.
Cloud computing,
Databases, data. Hmm.
way of way of doing.
Okay. Okay. Networking, data. Here are a lot of things out
Right.
here. But when you just do a Google, okay, just say, just go to Google and say what is cloud computing,
Yes.
you'll get this definition.
Okay, ni Samal.
Guys online, can you please requesting you all to please go on mute? Yeah, thank you. This is the definition what you get when you just do a Google. In order to just water it down, it's just sorry, sorry, it's just telling delivery of services and delivery of infrastructure over the internet. This is what the definition of cloud computing actually means, or this is what Google will actually give you when you go to Google and kind of search this out. Let's understand this in a while, in a second. But there is one difference that I just want you all to note, is that cloud for us from a consumer perspective is for a storage. Yeah, guys, can you please go on mute? Thank you. From a consumer perspective, a cloud is nothing but a storage. For me, the first cloud that I actually used was, let's say, let's say, or drive.google.com, or there was something called OneDrive by Microsoft, which they used to offer something like a storage and etc. So all for me cloud was is that I just take all my data, store it somewhere, and I'm happy with that. But for an organization, guys, can you please go on mute? Thank you. But for an organization, the way organization looks at a cloud is something different. It's not only storage. Yes, storage is a main part of a cloud, agreed, but not only storage. It's apart from storage, let's say, delivery of services applications and all these things. So to understand that, let's assume that we are not in 2022 today. Let's understand that we are back in somewhere 1990s or something like that. And let's look at this particular example. Let's say you are a user here, okay? Like you, like me, we are all users out here. Okay, let's do one thing. Give me a second. So I'm this user here. Okay, let's go back and let's put a pen, and yes. So I'm a user just like you, and you have just done your MBA. You come out, or you have an idea, okay? You have an idea that you want to create an application called IRCTC. Just an application. Again, I'm sure a lot of people would have used this application, right, to do your train ticket bookings and all these things. And this is again in 1990s. This is not something in 2020. I'm still telling that this is 1990s out here. So it's still there. We are still in that particular period. And I have an idea right now to develop this application so that people don't have to come in lines and book the tickets. They can still come online and can do this, let's say the train ticket booking and all these things. This is the idea that I'm now suggesting. Now, give me a second here. It's okay. Now, in order to develop this application, what do you think I need? What do you think will I need to develop this application? Now, this is what I'm asking you, is that you have an idea to develop an application and to deliver it to the end user. The end user is the general public, the entire people of India who want to reserve tickets online. So you want to deliver this application to them. What do you need for that? Infrastructure. But before infrastructure, you need a code. You need something, meaning you need a runnable application, which I'm calling as a program or a code. And again, I said that, you know what, I just have a business idea, but I don't know how to develop this application, etc. So I need to hire a team, let's say called as developers. So I hire a set of developers who can help me write this code in any of the languages like .NET, C#, Java, whatever is available out there in the market. I'll choose one of the available stack languages and I'll start coding this application out. Okay, let's say that I took around 3 months to start working on this application. I'm saying 3 months to develop, to test and all these things out. Great. Now all the code is sitting on my developer's laptop or a desktop of a developer. Now the question is, using this desktop, can I deliver the code to the entire, let's say to the entire world? No, not really. I need an equipment, or I need a device that can help me deliver this code to the end user. This is the device what I'm now calling as a server. The box that you see out here is a representation of a server. Now when you say server, it's nothing but just like your machine only. It's just like, the laptop that you're seeing in front of me. But let's say my laptop has a capacity to hold about 1 terabyte of data. This server might have capacity of, let's say, 1000 terabyte of data or thousands of terabyte of data. Let's say my laptop has a RAM of around 8 GB. This particular server can have, let's say, 8000 GB of RAM. So it's nothing but a machine, but magnified into thousands of times. So it's giving me now the capacity. It's now basically giving me all these things to hold my code and to deliver my code to, let's say, the entire world. Now this is what I'm establishing. Now my question to my developers is that I now go to my developer and I ask, hey, you know what, I need this server right now. Where can I purchase the server? Now again, we are 1990s right now, and this is not a cheap machinery. It's very costly. A server is very costly out here, and I need to order this server. I need to order the server and I need to get this server delivered from a country like United States. Because back then you only had Dell and a couple of manufacturers who are provisioning this service, who are, let's say, manufacturing this service. And again, the catch here is that the server is not readily available. You'll have to place an order. You have to tell what is the configuration you need. And in order to make this server, just a second. Okay, in order to configure the server, in order to get the server ready and deliver it to you, they'll have to deliver it, they'll have to ship the server to you to your particular location. It would take somewhere around 60 to 90 days. That's the reason I'm telling that the ordering phase will take me somewhere around 2 to 3 months in short. So already I'm done with 3 months of coding, and in those 3 months I'm paying my developers because I'll have to give them some salaries out here. And now I also went ahead and ordered a server, and it cannot be like, what, back in those days, it was quite unfortunate that we do not have something like pay on delivery like we have right today. We have to kind of give the entire order upfront. We'll have to pay everything upfront and then get it delivered. So 3 to 6 months for the delivery time. Now great, it has come, the server has come to India. Where do I store it? Like, can I just place it like a laptop? No, I cannot do that. It's a very heavy machinery. It needs proper electrification, it needs proper ventilation, it needs proper air conditioning and all these things out. So I need a server room. So I need a room like this where I can just store the servers, nothing else. And I need a team of engineers who can maintain the server. So it's not a joke. So it's, let's say, it's a costly affair. So I need to, let's say, build a room, and I'm now calling this room as a data center or a server room. In normal layman term, we call it as a server room. If I technically slightly complicate it, I call this as a data center right now, a DC. So I now have a data center. So now it's telling, okay, fine, I have a data center. I've got all my equipment. I got my server. Great. Everything is in place. Application is now being delivered. Now the application is now running out of this particular server. So whatever code you write, you deploy this code on top of the server, and the server delivers this code to the entire world. This is how normally a delivery mechanism really happens in the software world. Now great, all the server is done. If a user now, any part of, let's say, my country, he's going ahead and saying irctc.co.in, he's able to see that particular page. They're able to, let's say, book the tickets, reserve, let's say, train tickets and all these things. Great. There are two cases out here that I now want to suggest is that, just give a second. Okay, sorry, just give me a second, guys. Okay, please settle down. There are two things that can happen, going forward. In, let's say, scenario A, I initially put an order for this particular server, and I had a configuration in my mind that, what, I need 1000 GB of, let's say, data. This is something that I'll hold. I need some amount of memory that I can hold, and etc. And all my applications are consuming this data and consuming this memory and then running out of it. In situation A, I initially thought that there will be somewhere around 100 users visiting my page per second. I did not think my application will be a hit. I just said, okay, fine, it will be 100 users that will be visiting. So depending upon that, I said 100 users per a second or per a minute. Let's take this out. 100 users per a second is what I'm, let's say, thinking. And according to which I ordered the server, I placed the order, I got my server delivered. Great, good. Now the issue here is that my application has taken a huge hit. Like, a lot of people are now, let's say, using this application, and instead of 100 users, there are about 10,000 users that are visiting per a second. Now, if there are 10,000 users that are visiting per a second, the server that I ordered cannot take that load capacity. The server will crash. That's the reason sometimes when you go to a website, it says server is not available and all these things, errors and all these things. The server is going to crash if I do not accommodate for this capacity. Now, here's the catch now. Now I say, okay, fine, you know what, my application is doing very well. Now let's do one thing. Let's go and order again. I need additional capacity. I cannot just go ahead and, let's say, purchase additional capacity from somewhere in the market. I cannot do that. Again, I'll have to go back to my manufacturer, who's Dell, and I say, you know what, I need one more server here, because from one server I thought my application will run. Now it's not running. Can you please give me as soon as possible? Dell will say, you know what, hold on, I cannot give you as soon as possible. I'll again need 60 to 90 days. Because you should have thought about it, you should have thought about your capacity, but I, because of, let's say, saving my cost, I did not imagine that the application would be such a kind of, let's say, hit, let's say, or something like that. So again, 60 to 90 days, and my 60 to 90 days the application will be down. I'm losing business. I'm losing every second that the user is, kind of getting that error telling that 404. The users are comfortable going to the counter and, kind of booking their ticket. So I'm losing my business out here. So I'm losing, let's say, not in, let's say, rupees, I'm losing in crores. I'm losing in crores out here. This is scenario A. Scenario B, I thought there will be 100 users that will be visiting per a second, or 1000 users visiting per a second out here. And for some reason, people are still comfortable going to the counter and, let's say, still, kind of getting the tickets. So the application is not being liked by a lot of people. Let's say there are only 10 users visiting per a second. This capacity that I ordered is now surplus. There is, let's say, I've ordered more than what I can consume. Now there is a surplus capacity. I cannot now say that, you know what, out of this 1000 GB, let's only use 100 and let's sell the remaining GB out here. I cannot do that. Again, even if I want to come out of this business, because this business is not, let's say, giving me an economic viability, if I want to come out of this business right now, I cannot just go to OLX and sell it out, because this is now a heavy machinery. I cannot do all these things out here. So I'm now stuck. This was a scenario when someone had to start a business, and that's the very reason why didn't you not hear a term called startup culture or something like that. You never had something called startup cultures until 2010, so good 2010 and etc. So this model was not helping either the manufacturer nor the end user, who's, let's say, this company who's, let's say, dealing with this particular application. It is not helping anyone. So what happened, let's say, in the early 2000s, I'm talking about the period of 95 to, let's say, 2005 and all these things out, there came up a company called Amazon. So Amazon, initially they said, okay, fine, you know what, we'll sell books. And then Amazon, let's say, became a little bit greedy and said, you know what, we'll sell books online. And not to sell books online, they wanted to use some kind of a delivery mechanism like this. And they said, you know what, instead of me going to a manufacturer, let me go ahead and build my own data center. Let me go ahead and say, come back. Let's see, pen, yeah. So Amazon said, okay, fine. Let me go ahead and build my own data center out here. I won't go into, let's say, any manufacturer like Dell. I'll order my own components, build my own components, and run my business out of it. They did it. That was successful. They did it. Amazon was really a very good success. They said, if I can do this, what if I do this as a business? Meaning, I now will purchase the servers because I have now the capital with me. I have now the amount that I can invest. So I'll buy the servers from manufacturers like Dell and etc. I'll place the servers in a data center. I will maintain those servers. You don't have to worry about it. I'll maintain those servers. All now you need to start a business is a proper internet connection. That's the only thing you need. Meaning, if you have an internet connection, I, meaning Amazon or any cloud provider, is ready to deliver these services over the internet. This is called delivery of services and infrastructure over the internet, which now we call as cloud. So now, if you want to start a business, all you need is an idea, a laptop. Let's say an idea, a laptop. Let's come back. This pen something not working. So all you need is an idea, a proper idea out here, a laptop with a proper internet connection, and you can now start consuming all these services. So now the data center, what was earlier your headache, is now someone else's headache. They are now taking care of it. Meaning, Amazon came up and then said, Microsoft said, you know what, this model is good. Let me also start the same thing. And Microsoft came up with a product called Microsoft Azure. And then you had Google that is coming up with right now, which is called Google Cloud Platform. Again, these are not the three clouds that are available in the market. These are the three popular clouds that are available in the market. There are really a lot of clouds out there like Salesforce and all, they have their own cloud. But when you talk from a company's perspective, AWS, which is called Amazon Web Services, a product by Amazon, Azure, which is a product by Microsoft, and GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform. These are the three things that are generally used. Like if you look at the market capitalization today, Amazon Web Services is somewhere around 50 to 53% of what the entire companies are using. Azure is around 49-50% is what they're using, and the remaining, let's say 3 or 4%, what is the residue that's being now used by Google platform. So Google Cloud is not that popular today. As of today, it's not that, let's say, popular. Amazon and still Azure are, let's say, taking the advantage out here. So what happens if you go here? It's like if I change my model of business from, let's say, a data center oriented to something called as a cloud oriented. Yes, please go ahead. I'm not talking about an application. Okay. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm. Correct. No, it's not independent. It's not really. Mhm. Correct. Correct. Uh, from a network. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Correct. Hmm. Right. Correct. Correct. We are adding the storage spaces, right? This inbuilt storage space, or are you adding it? This is now taken care by the cloud provider itself. This is not our headache. Like how the servers communicate with each other, that's now the headache of a cloud provider, who's Azure or AWS or everything. So they are offering this service over the internet. In the background, like how many servers they are creating, how many servers they are running your application on, this is not our headache right now. Our application can be running on any server or any such kind of a thing, because right now when you talk about servers, is it inbuilt or do you add it? This is not something that I control as a user. This is something that my cloud provider now controls out here. That is their headache. That's the reason I'm telling that from this model, wherein this was my headache, I'm now telling that this is their headache right now, where cloud provider will take care of the availability. Okay. And that's the advantage what I was talking about, is that you have flexibility right now. Meaning, guys, can you please, excuse me, can you please? Yeah. So now I was talking about things like cost saving capability, scalability, meaning if your application is now a hit, you don't have to wait for 2 or 3 months. You just have to wait for 2 minutes for the application to scale up, meaning the space to increase. So now all these now come to you as an advantage when you go into cloud. And quite inevitable, a lot of companies are now moving to the cloud today. And that's the reason you see a lot of boom for the cloud technology today. And believe me, the hikes are next level out there in the market. Like we had people who had a hike of 170% to what the market comparison scale was. So today the demand is a lot. Any cloud you be in, you have very good demand, like either it be GCP or AWS or Azure. Any cloud you be, you have fantastic, let's say, kind of opportunities out there that is available as such. So any questions till here that I can take? Anyone, anything till here, offline, online? Anyone, any questions till here?
No.
Hmm? Okay. So when we are actually talking about the cloud, it's also very important to just give an overview on what are the types of the clouds that are available. Because before we go ahead and look into it, we just need to understand what are the types of the cloud. We'll again go into in depth depth on top of this once we begin our, let's say, usual classes. But just to give you an overview, there are three types of clouds that are available. Like when you work with a company, you either work in a public cloud or a hybrid cloud or a private cloud. What this means is that, let's say you're working with a company called Swiggy. It's a startup company. They have all their applications being delivered from, let's say, some of the other clouds that is available. Meaning they haven't purchased anything. They haven't purchased any server. They are now purely a cloud application. That's called as a public cloud enterprise. Meaning companies who are completely going on, let's say, something like, or some cloud provider like Azure or cloud provider like GCP or AWS. These are called public cloud enterprises. But if, let's say, you have a company called ICICI who's telling that, what, I'm still not comfortable using the cloud. I have my own data center. I'll take servers out from that. That's called a private cloud. So a lot of companies now are shifting from private cloud to hybrid cloud right now. Hybrid cloud is a combination of both. Most of the companies that you work with have their own data centers. Yes, they will also rely a good amount of their portion on, let's say, Azure or AWS or GCP and all these things. So these are the three varieties of cloud that we kind of deal with. And in our classes, we look at public and hybrid. We don't really look at private, because private, you need your own data center and etc. So that's something that we cannot really arrange out here. So that's the reason we look at public and we look at a hybrid cloud from an engineer's perspective, from a DevOps engineer's perspective. And we also see that if you are an organization who's private cloud, how do you migrate onto, let's say, Azure, or how do you migrate onto a different cloud as such? This is something that we'll be covering out here. Now, there's one thing that I've been repeating again and again is that there is AWS, there is GCP, there is, let's say, Azure out there in the market. Then why do you choose Azure? Now, this is a question that a lot of people might have, that why don't I go for AWS or why don't I go for GCP? Why only Azure right now is, let's say, you might have a question, right? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. So, again, just coming back to you, just to ask you, why do you want to choose Azure? Why not AWS? Why not GCP? Sorry? Security. But AWS also offers security. Like all the cloud providers are equally good. Even they offer surveillance. Yes, even AWS also offers surveillance. I can also give you a counterpoint there. So, sorry, rapidly growing. Okay. Anyone else? 16 plus. Okay.
Might be cheap offering services.
Okay. Anyone else? Why do you
Sir,
choose
it's
this?
friendly user.
Yeah,
Friendly
basically,
user.
Okay, user friendly.
User
Okay,
friendly. User friendly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
user friendly. Maintenance, you get all those things even in AWS too. Like the same thing you get in AWS too. You actually get
I
AWS a
believe
little cheaper than Azure. Yeah.
I
so
believe
one main
Microsoft is
thing I would
already.
say is like, Azure has this one main facility called a software as a service. So especially for
Okay.
DevOps, so right
Mhm.
on the go, we can use all these DevOps tools for all these
Okay.
CI/CD pipelines. So it provides this software as a
Okay.
service entirely. So earlier,
Okay.
Microsoft used not to be like that, but now
Okay.
we can deploy these CI/CD pipelines in Azure DevOps with any cloud platform. So this was the one initiative by Microsoft.
Okay.
This is really really useful, and people are using it. I think
Thank you
so.
for
This
the
is
input, but can you please go on mute? I'm getting a lot of background noise there. Yeah. Okay, guys, can I have your attention back again into the class, please? Can you all stop the side chatter? Thank you. So yes, again, a question out here is why Azure? Why do you want to even go to Azure out here? Is that very importantly, Azure is a Microsoft product, and organizations normally when they use their machines and etc., they use a Windows operating system. Most of the organizations that you work with, they use a Windows operating system and not a Linux. Do you know why they don't use a Linux? Because you need some kind of a commanding, let's say, some kind of, let's say, a bash commanding and all these things to interact with Linux. You do not have something called as a GUI, graphical user interface. You don't have a GUI when you come down to Linux. Same thing when you come down to AWS, you don't have a GUI. AWS or GCP, for you to, let's say, begin your journey with AWS or GCP, you need to start with Linux and Red Hat. That is something that you need. So in order for me to start you, let's say I'm taking a course for AWS, I will start the course not from AWS but from Linux basics. You'll need to understand the commands of Linux, which is not everyone's cup of tea. That's the reason Microsoft Azure said that, you know what, like Windows operating system, I will give you a control panel, or I'll give you a website where you can go ahead and start interacting with my cloud. You don't really need to have, let's say, a programmability. You don't need to, need to come from, let's say, a programming background. If you're even a layman, you'll be able to understand the same thing out here. That's that, and a couple of more things like that. Let's go here. That's one of the things, and again, there is a very good job market today for Microsoft Azure, especially when you compare it pre and post lockdown. When, let's say, pre lockdown and once it went into the lockdown phase, right, Azure grew around 170% to what it was earlier. Meaning companies were now starting to shift to Azure, because if I shift to Azure, I don't need to hire an engineer who's from a Linux background. I don't need to train someone on Linux. I can just hire them. I can start learning Azure right away. I can do that. And also, one biggest thing of Azure is that Azure is being used by 80% of the Fortune 500 companies. Like across the world, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies that you do have, Azure is being used out there. Like Azure is that. And also, Azure today has the largest chain of data centers. When talking about data centers in the first slide, we're telling that Azure kind of purchase, let's say Microsoft purchases all these servers, stores them in something called as a data center, and Azure has a chain of data centers across the world. Today, Azure offers somewhere around 54 or 57 data centers. This is a chain that is across the world, and this is the largest data center chain that is available out there for any cloud provider as such. Which means that Azure services are highly available. Companies are really kind of relying out here, and there are a lot of clients who are running out of Azure as such, and the growth has been tremendous. Like the market out there for Azure has been really good, especially when you compare. This is still 2019, after 19, 20, 21, 22. It's great market out there for you, which means that for me as an engineer who's working with this particular cloud, I also have same equal amount of opportunities as such to start my career. Again, the entry is easy. That's what I would say. When I compare it to a cloud like AWS or GCP, Azure is easy to enter. For AWS or GCP, you will need some Linux basics. I'm not telling that the cloud is bad. AWS is doing very good, same like Azure. Both of them are, let's say, on equal par. And AWS also offers services on a cheaper rate than Azure. Azure is a little costlier than, let's say, if you compare with AWS. But here you get a very big edge, that it offers you something that you can see, something that you can interact with. So it's easy to learn for you. And for even for me as a facilitator, it's easy for me to, let's say, deliver the same thing to you all, because everything is, let's say, online. You don't need to install anything, and everything and anything that you see with Azure is on the portal of Azure as such. So that's where Azure comes into the picture. Any questions till here, guys? Anyone who still has doubts that why Azure, not AWS, sir? Hmm. On a Linux operating system, we will see that in something called DevOps practices and all these things out. But you don't really need something like a programming and all these things. You don't really need that. We'll also look into that aspect of the, let's say, program. Yes. Any more questions, guys? Online, offline? Anyone? Any more questions? But then we are not just here to learn about cloud, right, Avi? We are here about DevOps. We say it is DevOps out here. But I started with cloud because for you to implement something called DevOps, you need a cloud. So that's the reason I've now started with a cloud as such, and I'm now telling what is a cloud, and then moving to something called DevOps as of now, right now. What do you mean by DevOps, guys? Did anyone hear this terminology before coming here? Or does anyone have an idea on what DevOps really is? I'm sorry. Combination of development and operations. Okay. Combination of development and operations. Okay. Anyone? Okay. Committing a change onto a system, implementing onto a user. Okay. 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 Specific timeline. Okay. Great. Okay. Anyone else? But that's fine. We integrate, let's say,
It is to develop and operate things which are required to a company
okay,
or something like that.
that's fine. But I wasn't really looking into the tools, but I was looking into what DevOps really is. But what really is DevOps? Like, what do you understand from DevOps is what my question was.
It's a basically
It is
collaboration
a
between
method of
dev team and operation team so that they can work together.
Okay, the crux of the idea is that development and the operations team, is it? Like, crux of the idea is development, operations, something related to the delivery of, let's say, your code. Okay. Guys, again, can I have your attention back, please? Yeah. Thank you. So it's some kind of an integration or some kind of, let's say, a marriage between developer and the operations and all these things. Some of that things, but let's understand this from a ground level. Let's understand how exactly a software development happens in an organization as such. Let's understand from this particular example. Let's try to understand what exactly or where exactly DevOps comes into the picture. How do we, let's say, help in this particular process? Let's look into that particular aspect. Again, same thing. You are, let's say, developing an application called irctc.co.in. You have a team of developers, isn't it? You have a team of developers who are designing this application, developing this application. Day and night, they're writing some code out here. So the entire purpose of, let's say, something like a developer or a development team out here is to write a code, right? They're writing the code in the, excuse me, do you have anything to add, please? Can you please, let's say, calm down a little? Thank you. Okay. So the entire purpose of a development team out here is to write a code, to develop a code out here. Now, if I write a code, if I'm a developer, I'm writing a code, this code should be tested by someone. Yes. So I will say a testing or a QA team. Quality analysis, testing, anything kind of falls in the same bucket. Now, the main job of a tester or a QA is to use some set of tools like, let's say, Selenium and etc. Yes. Am I okay now? Good now? Okay, great. Thank you. So the main purpose or the main job of a tester is to, let's say, write some program using some tools called Selenium, APM that are available out there in the market, and test the code that a developer has given to him. So testing the code that a developer has now given to him and identifying what are the issues with this particular code. Let's say the entire product called IRCTC was supposed to be delivered in 8 months. Somewhere around 8 months is something is my delivery target. I'm saying this is the delivery target that I do have. And the developer is taking somewhere around 2 months in order to write this code. Just to write the bare basic of the code is took the entire development team took around 2 months out here. Now I send the code back to the testing team out here, and they, let's say, took around a month to test the code. They identified few issues and they said, you know what, they came back to the development team and they said, you know what, these are the issues in your code, you'll have to address them, so please fix these issues. We call them as bug fixes. We call them, let's say, in a very generic term, as a bug fix out here. So the developer will take some additional time out here, let's say somewhere around a month more, in order to test this out, or in order to, let's say, fix the bugs that the, let's say, the QA has given to him. So the bugs in being fixed, again it will go back to a QA. The QA will again take somewhere around a month to test it out, send it back to the development team. This is now, let's say, a continuous loop, and let's say this took around 5 months entirely. After 5 months, now the tester is telling, or now let's say the entire team is telling that, you know what, yes, we are good right now, we have tested, we have done everything. Now let's send the code to the entire world. But before sending the code to the entire world, you will have one team who specializes in, let's say, delivering it. That's your operations team. That's where ops as an operation team comes into picture. Operations or ops. Okay, operations or ops, they come into picture and they say, you know what, guys, can you please go on mute, please? Thank you. Or operations or ops out here, the main purpose of the operations team out here is that they say, you know what, we have a client called the Government of India. We will deliver this application to Government of India, and we will make sure that this entire delivery and maintenance is smooth. That's where operation team comes into picture, and operation team also need to test it out. So what is happening right now is that the developer is giving this particular code to the tester. Tester is testing, again pushing it back to the developer, and both development and testing team is working in sync with each other. But operations guy is not involved here, because operations has nothing to do with the development of the, let's say, the code out here. Operations is being involved when the time comes to deliver the code. Operations is now being involved, and now they're telling that, you know what, there are some issues that we see while delivering the code. They'll again come back to the development team and they'll say, you know what, the code still has issues, we need you to fix this. Again, this will take some time, and my delivery target is being pushed. I'm pushing it from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, so on and so forth. Now this model of development used to happen. This was the model of development what used to happen out here, and this model of development was called waterfall model of development. This was called as a waterfall model of development. The reason being, it's flowing in one direction. It's coming from the developer to the QA to, let's say, the operations folks out here. So the issue here is that there is no proper coordination between different teams out here. Developer is doing one thing, tester is not aware of that, tester is doing one thing, developer is not aware of that, operations is doing something, development is not aware of that, and so on and so forth. So all these three teams are not in sync, and I am losing a lot of time in getting all these teams in sync with each other. So that's where they said, you know what, we need a specialized team. Like we need someone who's a specialist in this, who can work with the developer, understand the issues of a developer, and can also help the operations team out here to deliver the code in a uniform way, not in a lateral way, but in a uniform, in a synchronous way, getting all the teams on one page doing this. And that's where DevOps as a team came into picture. Development plus operations out here. It's the dev from development, ops from operation, combining both of them. Now this is where DevOps comes into picture. And DevOps says that, you know what, okay, great. There is a coordination that is missing between the team. So let me use a tool, or let me use some kind of a technology. And this technology is called Azure DevOps. This is where Azure DevOps as a product comes into picture. And they say, you know what, okay, fine. Let me not do the code development in this way, which is a lateral way of development, which is not allowing me to take a feedback, which is not allowing my teams to sync together and work together. Let's change this a little bit different. And now my code development looks something like this. So I am now telling my developer that, you know what, yes, I will help you with development of the code. I'm telling my tester that, you know what, I'll help you with testing the code. And I'm telling my operations team that, you know what, I will help you with, let's say, the delivery of the code. So it is build, test, and deliver. Everything is now happening in sync. And this is cutting down the time for SDLC, software development lifecycle. This is called software development lifecycle, or we generally call this as SDLC out here. So this is now cutting down a huge time in, let's say, delivering my software, because all my teams know how things are working. And I, as a DevOps engineer, I know how to integrate all these teams together on a tool called Azure DevOps. So we primarily, our bread and butter is a tool called Azure DevOps, using which we try to, let's say, automate the software development lifecycle, using which we try to reduce the friction between different teams and make sure that this delivery is a smooth procedure. And that's the reason why a lot of companies today are moving to a DevOps practice, because they understand that you need a specialized team to deliver this out. It's a big product. You need a team to deliver this out. You need a team to handle all these things out. And that's where DevOps as a profession comes into picture. And as a DevOps engineer, you are expected to be familiar with this particular tool called Azure DevOps, because this will now become your bread and butter as such. This will now become your primary tool on which you'll, kind of do all your automations and all these things as such. So this is what Azure DevOps really means out here. So any questions out here, guys? Anyone, any questions out here, online, offline? Anyone, anything as such? Any questions, guys? Any questions with the idea of DevOps? Again, I'm not going inside what is the tool. I'm just giving the idea of what DevOps is. We will start with going inside the tool once we start with the classes as such. Please go ahead. I'll talk about what is the coverage in the next slide. In the coming slides, I'll talk about what is the coverage. We can talk about there. Okay. Mhm. It's an agile methodology. Yes. We'll talk about what an agile also is, but this is an agile methodology as such. Is any more questions, guys? how will you analyze monitoring, the monitoring of the SIM. So we will be using some tools for monitoring, and those tools are a part of DevOps practice. So using those, you'll identify what are the issues in your code and all these. No, I am. That's right. I am telling that we still use a web application, but in order to deliver the code on top of your web application, I'm using this tool. So it's a delivery mechanism out. Yes. Any questions, guys? Anyone? Yes, please go ahead. Hmm. Yes. Are you able to see what is on my screen? You'll be able to interact with the screen, right? In a Linux, you won't be able to do that. If you have to interact with it, you'll have to type some commands there. So you'll need to come from a Linux background in order to, let's say, work with that particular cloud. Exactly. So there should be a command line using which you need to interact with this cloud and etc. But when you come with Azure or you come with Azure DevOps, you don't need such a kind of an interaction. You don't need a program to interact with. We'll also talk about whether we go for programming, what is the programming we go for, and all those things out there. But you don't really need a program to interact with all these things out there. Again, this is the salary that is around, let's say, DevOps. Again, this is a very old slide, but today a fresher, let's say I'm just talking about a fresher that we hire just right out of college, we pay them somewhere around 7 lakh per annum. Like that's the package what a fresher is being offered. Again, if you have some experience around 3 or 4 years, there is at least 150% or 100% hike from what your previous company was offering you. So that's the minimum hike what you're getting as a DevOps engineer out here. I'm not talking about a cloud administration. I'm talking about DevOps engineer as such. Again, this is just the overview. We'll talk about again, in the job part of the thing. We'll also talk about how do you apply, what companies do you apply, what is your resume, and all these things. Will also help you with that. But coming down to the course, just as your answer to your question, what are we going to learn really out here is that it's going to be a mix of all the tools native to Azure or native to Microsoft, and some tools that are on the open source things of the market out here. So we are dealing with something called Microsoft Azure, which is a primary cloud, and it will at least take me around 40 classes to cover Microsoft Azure. At least 40 classes, meaning 40 hours. Each class is 1 hour. So at least 40 hours to cover Azure. Because before I get into something called DevOps, before I actually get into something known as DevOps out here, it's very important for me as a facilitator to help you understand what Azure really is. To help you really understand what Azure really is out here. And then we'll be moving into DevOps. Again, I said Azure has a GUI, but you also need some kind of a programmatic interaction with Azure. That's where a scripting language called PowerShell comes into picture. So we are going to look at PowerShell from a very basic oriented. We'll start PowerShell with, let's say, a basic approach on what is PowerShell, how do you, let's say, work with PowerShell, what is the advantage that you get with PowerShell, and etc. And then we are moving into something known as ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager templates. When you work with AWS, you will be working with something called CloudFormation. Here you have something called as AWS, sorry, here you have something called as ARM templates out here. So this is something that we'll be primarily looking at, and then we'll be moving into Azure DevOps, which is our primary tool. And for me to cover Azure DevOps, it's going to take somewhere around 25 classes or 25 hours to complete and to touch, to completely look into, let's say, the services of Azure DevOps as such. And this is going to be the main focus of the course. This tool is going to be the main focus of the course as such. And apart from this, the market even today is asking for some open sources as such. So we are going to look at something known as Jenkins. We're going to look at something called Terraform, Dockers, and not covered in the slide, we're going to look at something known as Kubernetes. These are the things that we will be covering as a part of this particular curriculum. And for me to cover all these things, I would require at least 60 to 70 classes. I'm talking about 60 to 70 hours of, let's say, content delivery out here, which includes a project work, which includes some requirements from the real time. So I'll be giving some real time requirements for you all. We'll be looking at how do you, let's say, approach these requirements and etc. we'll be doing a project in collaboration with, let's say, whoever is there in the class. So we'll be doing a real-time project as such, and we'll be understanding the course from, let's say, a job orientation perspective as such. So this is going to be the mechanism out here. This is the things that you get here. Let's erase this out. This is all those things that we kind of cover out here. So this entire sums up, and also talk about, let's say, what is exactly, when we come to the actual class, we'll talk about what is the content of what we are going to cover and etc. This is something that we are also going to look at. Yes, please go ahead. On-premise, yes, a part of migrations will be covered, but the course is mainly for cloud. A little bit of migrations will be taken care of here. I'm using all these tools for the project work, a combination of all these tools. So we'll have to see all these tools in sync with each other. How do you connect all these tools in Excel? Again, sorry, yeah, please go ahead. Can you come again with your question, please? Yes. No. In order to deliver this out, a good amount of these tools, 1, 2, 3, 4, a good amount of these tools is something that we use. So when we do a project, I'll give a project in such a way that you can sync all these tools together and then use it together as such. So again, the class is going to be 1 hour, guys. It's going to be a 1 hour session. We are going to record each and every class. So just in case if you miss a class, you can go ahead, get the recording the same afternoon. You can download the recording and kind of hear it back again. So that's a provision that we do here. Again, it will take around 60 to 65 sessions, and the classes are going to stretch from Monday to Friday. Usually Saturday and Sunday is where we do assignments, where we do a lot of things, and then the explanation for the same thing out there. And sometimes if, let's say, time is not sufficient on a weekday, some topics are there that I need 2 hours to kind of stretch it out. We kind of take it on a Saturday, and it's going to be 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning. That's the class timing out here. So any questions with this, guys?
So one
Anyone,
question,
any questions
basically,
with this?
yeah. Hi Kiran, I have one
Yes,
question.
let me come back to you. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead, please.
So basically, I see this course content only CI/CD, in the sense continuous integration and delivery. So can I expect any continuous monitoring tools to be taught?
Yes, you can expect a continuous monitoring tool, which is called Application Insights, which is a monitoring tool that we'll be using out here. So it's a continuous integration, continuous. Let's say if I say CI/CD, continuous testing is also a part of it.
So
And
is it
monitoring.
is it the hands-on in the Azure DevOps itself, or for example,
It will be hands-on
will
both
there
on
be
the Azure portal and the Azure DevOps also. So I'll need to cover that
okay,
monitoring both in Azure and the Azure DevOps part of the syllabus also.
okay. So apart from that, there is no any open source monitoring tools to be taught, right?
No, not doing any open source monitoring. No.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yes. Any more questions, guys?
Hi Kiran, this is Kishore.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, actually it is covered in Kubernetes also.
Yes, we are covering Kubernetes also. We are covering something called Azure Kubernetes Services. That's something that we cover. Along with that, before covering Kubernetes, I'll need to take Dockers. So we'll do a Docker and Kubernetes as such.
Okay, good.
Okay, again, answering to your question, Ansible is not out of the box out here. So we're not covering Ansible here. We are covering ARM and Terraform, which is a configuration management. So we're replacing Ansible with ARM or Terraform as such. Is any more questions here, guys?
Kiran, we are using only Azure or AWS?
No, we're not doing AWS. We're only doing Azure. So we're not really touching AWS because Azure itself is really kind of big. I want to cover that. I'll need good amount of classes. So we're not doing AWS. We're only doing Azure and Azure DevOps.
Okay.
Yes. Any more questions, guys?
Sir, this is Kumar, sir.
Go ahead, please.
This is Kumar, sir. Coding language is an important.
Not coding, but scripting in the form of PowerShell. So coding is different from scripting. If you learn a coding language, you'll have to start with something called object-oriented programming language, OOPS concepts. You don't need OOPS with, let's say, PowerShell as such. It is not purely an object-oriented, let's say, scripting. So we will be doing scripting out here, and we will be starting with the basic of scripting. Like we'll understand scripting from a very basic perspective, and we'll understand that part of the scripting which we use from a DevOps perspective. That's important for me to cover because scripting is a very huge syllabus again. So we will be focusing on that part of, let's say, scripting which we will use on a regular basis. So it's not going to be that difficult as such.
Okay.
Any more? Yeah, any more questions, guys?
Basic scripting, it will work for this Azure DevOps, Kiran.
I'm sorry, can you come again, please?
Basic script is enough for this Azure DevOps.
Basic, yes.
What are
Basic
the
is good enough. Yes, basic is good enough. You can develop on top of that at a later point in time, but basic is good enough.
Okay, okay. Kiran.
Anyone, anything else, guys? Go ahead, please.
Is it
This is
necessary in learning of SQL Server?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting your voice really. Can you please come again?
Is it necessary in learning SQL Server?
No, not SQL Server. That is into, let's say, database management systems and etc. So not necessary, but we'll be covering a bit of, let's say, SQLs, Azure SQL and etc. We'll be covering a bit of it, but not the language of SQL. SQL language is not something that we cover here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, anyone, any questions, guys?
okay. Hi. Why
Go
are
ahead, please.
talking about the Microsoft Azure? This is completely Azure DevOps, right? Then again, Microsoft.
Can you please come in with your question, please? Can you please come again with your question?
Yeah, actually, this is completely course on Azure DevOps, right? And then why are learn about the Microsoft Azure? Like,
Okay, great question. Is that this is completely for Azure DevOps, and why are we learning Microsoft Azure? In order for you to implement some DevOps practices, you need to understand a product called Microsoft Azure. Meaning, when you do a DevOps on a cloud, and for a platform, you need Azure as a platform out here. So that's the reason we learn Microsoft Azure before we go into DevOps. So
but
that's the reason we are starting with this one. Yeah, please
yes,
go ahead.
the Azure application is different. Azure DevOps application is different, right?
It is different, yes. Both are different set of applications that are offered by, let's say, a vendor called Microsoft. Both are different. That's the reason we cover both of them.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, guys? Any more questions here?
Sir, is there any need of prerequisite languages for this Azure?
Any prerequisites needed? No, not really. I'm not really expecting any prerequisites out here. It's absolutely basic. So we'll start with absolutely basics. So no prerequisites required for this course.
So what is the fee structure and duration?
You can have a word with the front office, fee structure and everything that will be covered from the front office end as such. Duration is, again, as I said, 65 sessions. So that means 65 hours over, let's say, the weekdays. So it will take around 2.5 months in order to cover this out. 2 to 2.5 months is what this structure is.
In 60 hours, you will cover project scenarios also, Kiran. Real-time project
Yes.
examples.
Yes, that will be covered in that particular 60 hours. Yes.
Okay.
AWS, you'll have a little bit different because when you look at AWS doesn't really have a native tool called Azure DevOps. So you need to use Jenkins, Octopus, Puppet, Chef, Bamboo, Maven, Gradle, all those things. The intention, meaning the delivery, is the same. The usage of the tool is the same, but all those tools are now replaced by using one particular, let's say, tool called Azure DevOps as such. All that platforms are now replaced by Azure DevOps. So you need one platform. You're good enough with that. So any more questions, guys? Anyone, any questions here? No, you don't need Python. You need a scripting. Yes, please go ahead. GitHub will be covered here. So if I come down to the slide, so you see something called repos, right? So it's either Git or it's also called Azure repos. So as a part of DevOps, we cover, let's say, Git and Azure repos as such. Yes, any more questions, guys? And the classes are going to start from Monday, and we are going to take the classes from Monday to Friday, 1 hour every day. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. is going to be the class timing.
And do we
I'm
have
sorry,
any evening sessions?
just evening sessions. That was your question too. No, we don't have an evening session for now. We only have it on a morning slot. It's a only morning slot. Yes, only 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. slot. That's the only slot that is available right now.
Okay.
So do you have classroom training also, like direct classes?
Yes, we have the classroom also. As we are speaking, we also have a classroom parallel that is going around. So this batch is a hybrid, as I said. So both you can come offline, you can come online. There is no restriction. If let's say you aren't able to come offline a day, you can just go ahead listen to it online. Or if you want to come offline, you can come offline. Any which ways is super good with us.
Anyhow, you guys can give the recording class, right, sir?
Yeah, in which ways we'll give the recording classes. But if you have a if you have a doubt that you need to get clarified, coming offline, you can also do that. Okay, any more questions,
Thanks.
guys? Yeah.
Sir, 2 months is enough,
Apart
sir,
from
to become. Yeah.
2.5 months, I would say somewhere around 2 to 2.5 months is, let's say, the time bracket what I'm suggesting. So yes, that's sufficient.
And what is the interview and placement strategy after this course?
What is the placement status again? We'll be helping you all with the resume preparation right from, let's say, again, I would say there are multiple categories of people who need jobs immediately, people who, let's say, can wait for about 2 months and etc. I'll just come back. Just a second. I'll just come back here. So we will accordingly guide you all to go ahead and, let's say, create your resumes, help you with the resume preparation. Again, job support, interview support, all those things is something that I cannot really talk on a recorded session. But if you have specific questions with how the interviews are going around, what is the interview assistance, you can have a word with the front office as such, and they'll explain you what is the interview procedure and all these things are. But yes, we have an interview support and a job support happening parallelly as such. We would also offer those things out there. Certificate, no, there is no course completion certificate as such, but we can help you prepare for the certifications what Microsoft offers you. Yes. For SRE, yes, SRE, DevOps, both the same. Site reliability engineering, DevOps is all the same right now. Yes, you can do SRE also out here. Yes, any more questions here, guys? Anyone, anything
Which
before we
certification
close?
is better for basic learning, sir?
I'm sorry, can you please come again?
No, I'm asking which certificate is better for basic learning course?
Certificate for a basic related course is called AZ 900. If you want to do basic, it's called Azure
Okay.
Fundamentals, which is AZ 900. We are going to
Okay.
cover things like AZ 900, AZ 104, Administration of Azure, and then Azure DevOps, AZ 400. These are the courses,
Okay.
or these
Okay.
certifications are offered differently. Yes, certifications are offered differently. There are exams that you need to take and get the certification done. No, they're not going to happen in the class. Certification is not going to happen in the class. The class is mostly for the job oriented and those real time scenarios as such. But we can help you if you have, let's say, a specific scenario that you need to take up a certification, etc. We can guide you there.
Sir, apart from this Monday, when is
No,
the next
it's a fun.
going to start?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Apart from this coming Monday, when is the next training session start?
So we have classes starting every month. So 1 month we start, let's say, a new batch as such. So let's say a month and let's say a week, something like that, we start a batch. So then if you ask me, the tentative time will be somewhere around 16th of May or let's say 20th of May. That would be the tentative timing, 16th to 20th.
Right now you said that on Monday new batch is going to start, right?
Monday is the current batch. Right now it's the current batch right now. So that's Monday. That's on Monday. After Monday, if you're looking for any other batch again, then it's going to be at least a month from now.
If you are not getting,
Monday is a
if
new batch going.
if you are not getting your
Hello.
I'm
Kiran
sorry,
sir.
can you please come again?
Monday is a new batch going to start, right? Any working, any existing batch?
No, Monday is the new batch. This batch that you're kind of in, this will start on Monday officially. It's a demo.
Apart
The
from
first class will be starting on Monday.
apart from Monday, when is next availability of the batch? Do you know that?
No, this Monday is like that's the only slot that we have. There is no other thing apart from Monday. Yes, someone else had a question. Okay, guys, that's it from my end then. Thank you, and I hope to see you all on Monday. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You know.